You hear about it all the time now. It depends maybe on where you're interacting, but if you go on the internet and Google mindfulness, you will have a lot of hits. There are classes, nights like this, books, apps, many, many apps. You could fill your phone with nothing but mindfulness apps. There are many websites. There are free, there are things you pay for. There's tons of stuff. And 30 years ago there was not. So why? Where did it come from? Does anybody know where the idea of mindfulness itself comes from historically, or have an idea of where you have heard of it from?
It's originally from Buddhism.
Okay,
Buddha
Buddhism.
itself was the guy who invented the mindfulness meditation.
Mhm.
Before that, there was something what is similar to modern day meditation, but it cannot be called by the
Mhm.
same name. Nowadays, the meditation is spread throughout the West,
Yeah.
but in East it started to exist 2050 years ago.
Mhm. Historically speaking, most of what we call mindfulness comes from Buddhism, and from the Buddhist texts. And you could read starting now for a long, long time. I've been trying to read a little bit for 5 years, and I have a long way to go. But Buddhism is where it comes from. If you're looking at it as something structured, prayer, in some form or another, has likely been a facet of human life for a lot longer even than that. And that is certainly a type of mindfulness and meditation. Anybody have any other comments about where mindfulness has come from, and especially more recently?
Well, for me, the first association to mindfulness was the Gestalt psychotherapy. It's all about here and now.
Okay.
The thoughts and your feelings in this very
Mhm.
moment. For me, that's very similar,
Very similar.
if not
yeah.
the same as mine.
Please.
Yeah, I guess if we speak about the time when everything started, most of the people were really orientated on what they were doing, because you didn't have so many things that are distracting you. And nowadays, people have realized that our phones, our computers are taking too much from us, and now we want to go back and be
Mhm.
more dedicated to whatever
Yeah.
are we doing.
Yeah, very true. The gentleman listed here with this quote, John Kabat-Zinn, is one of the people who brought mindfulness from the east to the west, technically. That's a very simplified version. He is a doctor at the University of Massachusetts. He spent a lot of time studying Buddhism also before he was a doctor. And he was working with patients with chronic illness and disabling pain. So a wide variety of illnesses and different types of pain, but all of them having chronic problems, so severe problems. And what he decided to do was to try helping them get through some of that with mindfulness techniques that he had learned through his studies in Buddhism. And he developed something that is now called mindfulness-based stress reduction, and I'll talk a little bit about his program in a minute. But basically, he started doing work with patients in the 70s in the US, and that has spread into a lot of different areas. As I said, you can go all over books, the internet, websites, apps, and find mindfulness techniques, mindfulness tools, mindfulness advice, things like that. But mostly for the West, it started with John Kabat-Zinn. To me, the thing that I think of when I wonder, when we look at ourselves now, and people are so interested, and I feel strongly that that's because mindfulness is not something we need to get, it's something we all already have, but we have lost it a little bit. If you think about who in your life is really mindful, children. You give a toddler an apple, and they're going to look at that apple. They're going to listen to the apple. They're going to bang the apple. They're going to taste the apple. They're going to smear the apple, everything. little kids are very mindful. They are in the moment. They're not worried about the doctor's appointment tomorrow because they don't know. And so it is something, to me, I feel we're all born with. And we lose it along the way. And I think that we have lost it more in modern society because of the level of distractions. There is no way to scientifically find out. But if you think about the lifestyle pre-industrial revolution or even pre-cognitive revolution, when humans were around for a very long time but not living the way we live, chances are they lived much more in the present moment. And so it is something natural to our biology, but it's not something we do anymore. And so the loss of it is felt very keenly by some of us. And that happens through anxiety, stress, distraction, running mind, and things like that. Any questions or comments on any of that? I'm going to sneak over and look at the clock so I know how I'm doing for time. Oh, okay. I'm going to talk very briefly about some science, but most of this you guys can find. There was a big study at Harvard, and what they did was they studied people using mindfulness techniques, including Buddhist monks and others, and they learned that meditation increases gray matter in your brain. That to me says everything, because most of what we do decreases brain matter. I feel like I'm losing it every day, but anything that you can do to increase it is great. Scientifically proven that it does. UCLA in California did a study on mindfulness with students with attention deficit disorder. And 100% of the students had an increase in attention functions after a certain amount of time. I believe it was 3 months, I forget, with mindfulness. But again, you can look all of these up. John Kabat-Zinn, what they did was they took these chronic patients with illness and disabilities and put them through an 8-week course that includes mostly mindfulness techniques, also some yoga, some other techniques, and those patients have a very large percentage of being able to handle their chronic pain or illness much better, and an increase in their general satisfaction with life from where they started. And so the mindfulness-based stress reduction course is now something that's a certifiable course. There's someone here giving it in Montenegro. Do you remember? It's Blue Coach. Blue Coach. I can put that on a resource list later. But he advertises on Facebook, and you can take an 8-week course. He said his course is not exactly the same as this one, but it's something similar. So there is a lot of science. I am not a scientist, and this is not my field, but I've read a lot, and I do find it fascinating. I will give resources to anybody who's interested if you want to look some of this up.
Sorry, I have
Please.
a short question. What is gray matter? Why is it important?
Can you help?
Yeah, I
Siva
get that,
Master.
but like, why is it?
It helps
So-
in brain function.
Uh-huh.
It helps in, again, we should get, is there anybody who is a doctor in the room? Because I'm sure there's people who know more than me, but it helps in brain functioning. And you do lose gray matter, or it is part of aging, is losing it, and so anything you can do to increase it helps you with, youthfulness and brain function. So the first thing I want you to do, in your mind only, is think of 5 things that you can see right now. Just in your mind, think of 5 things you can see.
Here in this room.
Right now from where you're sitting. And just list them to yourself. Okay, now I want you to think of 4 things that you can feel right now. Now I want you to think of 3 things that you can hear. Now think of 2 things that you can smell. And now think of 1 thing you can taste. A raisin, perhaps. The only point here is to bring you into the moment that you are in. But it's an easy way to do it. It's particularly nice with anxiety, and it's great with kids who are anxious. Stop. We're going to do the 5 senses. And it's easy to remember. 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can feel, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. So it's just a very quick exercise you can do anywhere to bring yourself to where you are, which is the point of mindfulness. Any questions about that? What I want you to do is make yourself comfortable. You're best off to have both of your legs this way and your feet on the floor, if you can. If for some reason you can't have your feet on the floor. Alex, you could sit Indian style if you want. Do you want to do that? Pull your legs up like that? However you're comfortable. What you want to think about for your back, for those of you who need it, you can lean back. But ideally, you want to be sitting in a way that you are supporting your own upper body, if you can. But the most important thing is that you're comfortable. Okay? I'm going to ask everyone to close your eyes gently. And I'm going to walk you through a short meditation called a body scan. Some of you may have done this before. We're going to start by focusing on your breath. So just take a moment to become aware of your breath. There's no need to adjust your breath or change your breath. If you want to take a deep breath, you can. But just become aware of your breath as you inhale and then as you exhale. Now move your awareness down to your feet. And for a moment, become aware of any sensations in your feet. The weight of your feet on the floor, your shoes. If your feet are tense or tight, think about relaxing and releasing. Now move your awareness from your feet up your lower legs through your calves and up to your knees. And think about any sensations in your lower legs up to your knees. Become aware of how they feel. If you feel any tension, think about releasing and softening. Now move your awareness up along your thighs. Become aware of any sensation in your thighs, where they meet the chair,